Welcome to the studios of the Community Media Center and for the Carroll County Board of Education Candidates Forum. I'm Richard Turner, and I'm honored to serve as the Executive Director. Thanks for joining us, whether you're viewing at home on our local cable channels or viewing online. We want to make sure that we can connect you with the current and topical issues before our community, because this is a critical part of our mission. Now, normally, we would also have an in-person audience, but we've adapted, staying safe, creating physical distance, but making sure you can get a close-up on the positions of the candidates for the Board of Education. But first, it is my great pleasure to introduce the CMC's Vice Chair of the Board of Directors. Teresa Bethune is the President of Info Pathways, a regional technology support firm, and Freedom Broadband, and a local internet service provider. Teresa has spent most of her life in Carroll County, graduating from South Carroll High School, Carroll Community College, and Johns Hopkins University. She has a keen focus on technology, spending the first part of her career at Johnson Controls. Teresa has served on state and local task force, including the Carroll County Long-Term Advisory Council, and several focused on rural broadband accessibility. In addition to serving on the Community Media Center Board of Directors, Teresa also serves as the president of the board for the Westminster Rescue Mission, member of the Carroll Community College Foundation Board of Directors, and as a Maryland State Coordinator for the Wireless Internet Service Providers Association. That's a mouthful. So it is a pleasure to have Teresa here. Teresa?
Thanks, Richard. Tonight's forum is being held at the Community Media Center studio in Westminster, Maryland. The program is being streamed live on cable channel HD 1086 and channel 19 as well, as on the Community Media Center's website at carrollmediacenter.org. The Community Media Center has partnered with the Carroll County Times to provide this programming as a public service to the citizens of Carroll County and does not endorse any political candidate or political organization. Our goal is to establish an equal platform for political advocacy and provide local residents with information about individuals seeking public office in the upcoming election. At this time, I will turn the program over to our moderator for the evening, Mr. Bob Blueball, editor of the Carroll County Times, to explain the rules and open tonight's forum.
Thank you, Teresa. As moderator for this evening, I will first introduce each of the candidates. Each candidate will then have a minute and a half for an opening statement. Following the forum introductions, I will ask the first question. Each candidate will then have a minute to answer the question. All candidates will answer the identical question. There will be no debate, as this is an informational forum. At the conclusion of the question and answer period, each candidate will have a minute and a half for a closing statement. All responses will be timed, and the timekeeper will give candidates a hand signal when 30 seconds remain. The timekeeper will ring a bell 2 to 3 seconds after the final stop signal is given, and the moderator may immediately interrupt the candidate and discontinue the statement or answer at that time. The questions will be a mixture of pre-prepared questions, those submitted in advance by the public via email. Due to COVID-19, the forum venue is closed to the public, and we are observing state and local social distancing guidelines. So let us begin. Each candidate for his opening statement will start with Stephanie R. Brooks.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob, the Carroll County Times, and the Community Media Center for allowing us to be here for this forum tonight. I'm Stephanie Brooks. I am probably the newcomer here for the Board of Education. I have been a longtime Carroll County resident. I've attended all public schooling through Carroll County, including the Career Technology Center, where I studied computer technology. I've been married for 18 years to my husband, Bruce. We have 2 wonderful children together. I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son, who are both in Carroll County Public Schools. For the last 16 years, I've worked for a Maryland-based financial firm where I have managed retirement plan accounts as well as associates who manage those retirement accounts. But in the last several years, I've actually focused on turning my attention to leading and executing large-scale legal, regulatory, and technology projects. I've been volunteering with Carroll County Public Schools since 2015 as a member of our elementary schools PTA board and representing our elementary and middle school on the Carroll County Public Schools board-approved Community Advisory Council, where I'm currently the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Virginia R. Harrison.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening. My name is Virginia Harrison, and I'm running for the Carroll County Public School again. I served 8.5 years on the board, and I believe that the that Carroll County Public School is an outstanding system. It's not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but it's getting very close. I admire the commitment that they have to the community, to the students, and to our county. And I've had the opportunity to be on a number of boards, such as the Boys and Girls Club, the community college, the library, and it just makes you so aware of how much work is put into the school system, how they work so hard as a team, how they work together every day, and it's just utterly amazing, and I have great respect for the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Marcia B. Herbert.
Thank you, Bob, and good evening. I want to take this time to thank the Carroll Media Center for hosting this forum tonight. I am Marcia Herbert, Vice President of the Carroll County Board of Education. I have held this position for the last 2 years of my 4-year term. I was born and raised in Carroll County, a product of Carroll County Schools just a few days ago, along with my daughter and her family. I currently have 2 classrooms in my home. I was an educator in this county for over 40 years. I also own Country Hill Horse Farm, where we provide lessons and leases and host horse shows every month. I am an ambassador to 11 schools, which I visit on a regular basis. I am very proud of my accomplishments with my leadership and guidance. I worked hard to improve relations with our delegates, our commissioners, and Sheriff DeWeese and his department. We have a new strategic plan, a new equity policy, and a 5-year balanced budget. Educators have received salary increases for the past 4 years. Our test scores lead the state, first in math, second in ELA. We just broke ground for the new Carroll County Career and Tech Center. I want to make sure our graduates are college and career ready. Career and Tech is up and running in small groups, along with other small groups around the county, with a phased-in approach with COVID. Gateway and Crossroads opens up next week, and we're very excited. We shall prevail.
And finally, Donna Savigny.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you to the CMC and the Carroll County Times for hosting this forum this evening. This is a great opportunity for us, and I truly appreciate it. So I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. First, my family includes my wonderful husband, Jay, of 28 years, and my daughter, Grace, who is 14 and just started high school, and my son, Evan, who is 12 and in middle school. We've been active members of the Carroll County community for over 20 years, and we live in Finksburg. And with my children in the school system, I have a vested interest in making Carroll County Public Schools the very best that they can be and giving all of our students a very high-quality education. So 4 years ago, I was honored to be elected to serve our community as a member of the Board of Education. And during that time, I've served 1 year as vice president and 2 years as president. My key goals are driving change and setting accountability for results, and I think that's really what differentiates me from other candidates. I've used my collaborative leadership style to develop strong relationships with key stakeholders around the community, including the Board of Commissioners, our state delegates, local law enforcement, and most recently, our local health officials. In my professional life, I'm also an actuary and a recognized business leader. I bring a proven track record of strategic and financial problem-solving experience to the table. With my financial background and my experience that I've gained over the last 4 years on the Board of Ed, I'm uniquely qualified to serve on the board, and I will continue to provide a strong voice in advocating for our students, our teachers, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's begin. The first question goes to Ms. Brooks. So, how would you rate the job the Board of Education has done in navigating the pandemic? And what are some proactive steps you'll be championing, if elected, to ensure that a full return to school is successful and sustainable?
Well, that's a tough question. What I will say is that I stand behind the Board of Education and everybody who currently serves on the Board of Education. This is not an easy job, and it's not something that should be taken lightly if you're running for it. Nobody asked to have a pandemic. Nobody asked to have virtual school. There's learning curves with all of this. Right now, we're looking at entering into a hybrid model. We're not going to please everybody. That's just the way that it is. Some parents want their students in full-time, some people want them out. We're giving them that opportunity. I think that we're doing the best with what we have. I would like to see maybe a pilot school where we could do classes Monday through Friday with small class sizes, and look into that as an option to start getting, at-risk children back into the school system.
Thank you. Ms. Harrison? Sure. How would you rate the job the Board of Education has done in navigating the pandemic? And what are some proactive steps you'll be championing, if elected, to ensure that a full return to school is both successful and sustainable?
Well, frankly, I think that the school system did an excellent job, because I remember when they first closed the school for 2 weeks, and I was thinking, this is really, really a lot more serious than we thought it was. But I realized that during those 2 weeks, the Board of Education was struggling, working to get the kids back in some type of learning system. And they did. They started sending out the notebooks and getting lessons online, and this is trial and error. And I think they've learned a tremendous amount, because this year, when the school opened up, it went very smoothly. And the fact that I'm very concerned about the health of the children and how they're talking about the flu season coming. And I really feel like it is really smart of the Board of Education that they go really easy and don't rush into it.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
I think the Board of Education has done the best we can with the worst possible event. We have worked diligently from the get-go. We were the first out of the gate with virtual learning in the state. Our teachers over the summer have worked thousands and thousands of hours on virtual learning online. We have been working with our health officer, Mr. Singer, and we have guided the path that we were the first county in the state to set an opening date. We were first to move forward to the hybrid position that we are taking. And this has been a collaboration with many, many people. Dr. Lockhart, all the chiefs. We've got to think about bus contractors. We have to think about the mental health and the mental health and emotional.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate some of the things that Ms. Herbert said, but in the spring, we really got off to a good start. Carroll County was one of the first to be up and running in a virtual model, and a lot of that was due to groundwork that we had already started laying as part of the instructional technology plan. That's really what allowed us to get up and running quickly. And then the efforts have been tremendous by everyone over the last many months, by staff, by teachers, trying to figure out the plan for smaller in-person learning groups early on and then transitioning into a hybrid. We really had no guidance from the state, and that's where I think our Board of Ed really shined over the summer. Is without that guidance, we basically took it upon ourselves to work with the local health officials and develop metrics that we were going to follow in order to determine when it was safe to open up the schools. We wanted to open as quickly as possible, but only when it was safe to do so. And by doing all of that research and working very closely with our public health officials, we really came up with a solid plan for reopening safely and trying to allow for that flexibility with families as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Mrs. Harrison this time. What are your thoughts about how online learning will be utilized in the future? Will you support families who wish to continue staying fully online even once the pandemic is over?
Well, I have a grandson who is in school, and it was very difficult when they first started, but once we sort of got in line, it worked very well with my grandkids, and I can understand how it works well with them, but not everybody. So I feel like if you really feel like your child needs to continue, if that's your decision and what you really believed in, I think you should do it. You should try. But I really feel like it's important to be in front of an instructor and in the school.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
I brought this up the other day at a meeting that we will probably continue with a combination of the online learning. But I will say one thing, there is nothing better than a teacher in front of a classroom. You can't beat that interaction. But as I was going back to, Manchester Valley had a need for a sign language teacher 2 years ago, and they couldn't get one. So this student had to drive to Carroll Community College every day, and we took care of her. Now, if we were in this situation, we could go virtual. I also know, being a teacher in the high school level, some schools have to offer classes every other year. So if you were a junior and you couldn't take it in your junior year, you would have to take it in your senior year. This way you could take that online. Also, another thing is, I hope that this all works out with the state, that we will not have snow days anymore. I think that will be a big plus.
Thank you. Ms. Vigny?
Yes, I truly believe that online learning will have a place into the future, but I do also believe that in-person learning with a teacher in front of the classroom is the best model. But we can enhance and develop a curriculum around that as well. We could get additional access to world language programs, additional AP government classes. There are so many more opportunities for enhancing the curriculum through an online structure moving forward. And I think that there are the possibilities of snow days. I think that would be an excellent use of online learning. And our online teaching has been absolutely fantastic. I really want to give a kudos to the teachers for the way that they've taken on online teaching. But online learning has been a struggle for some of our students, especially our special needs students and our elementary students. So I think we really do need to get the kids back in class.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
Thank you. So I fully support virtual learning. There are definitely children who will do better being in school in a classroom setting, and I think that there are also children that are going to do better in a virtual setting. A lot of that could be, surgery on a knee where they can't bear weight on their legs, so they can't actually make it into school. You have snow days. You have children who, don't work well in a classroom because of ADHD and would work better at home. I think that one of the benefits of doing this is that we could use the Carroll County curriculum versus a homeschooling curriculum and potentially look to build that out where maybe we have virtual teachers, so a teacher that's hired just to teach virtual classes, and then those classes could be across schools. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a virtual teacher for one school, it's a virtual teacher where you have several children from those schools attending that class.
Thank you. County Health Officer Ed Singer has expressed some concern about allowing high school sports to begin at essentially the same time schools are reopening in a hybrid format. That's not official or anything, but what is your position if that were to happen? And we'll start with Ms. Herbert.
Well, being a coach for many, many years and coaching varsity sports, I am very concerned about the mental health of high school athletes. I made comments last Wednesday night, and I said I want to be able to open up sports on the varsity level as soon as possible. They have missed out so much. They missed out in spring sports, and now when I go by a complex near me and you see all the varsity hockey players playing in the evenings, that is very upsetting to me. They need to be in our schools, in our locker rooms, and they need to be playing each other in the county on our fields. So when I see all these other children playing rec soccer, rec hockey, and both my granddaughters play, and we have not had any incidences. So I am hoping that we can get this, and our students need this very badly.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
I do support opening up for sports for our high school students as soon as it's safe to do so, and I think that there is a way to do it safely. Our rec programs are doing it safely. If we wear masks when appropriate, if we do temperature screenings when necessary, there is a way to do it safely. And I think we do need to get our kids back and competing, and the mental health issues that would help alleviate. I think it's a very important aspect of school and just helping our student athletes. But I do understand Mr. Singer's reticence, how he is a little bit reluctant to bring that back, because when you open up a little bit more, you're going to have additional cases. But we have the processes in place to manage those cases back down. And so I understand not wanting to create that bubble, and I think we have to be very aware of the fact that the education and the instruction is the most important, and we don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. But I think that we can do it safely.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
So I do believe with the right precautions, we could reinstate high school athletics. So I think it's especially important for our juniors and seniors who are out there, who are trying to get scholarships to college for their sports. Things like limiting spectators, making sure you have your temperature checked, making sure you're wearing your face mask on the sideline if you're not actually playing. Those are things that we know help stop the spread of COVID. So those are the precautions that we should obviously take. If rec councils are able to be out there and participating, then I think that our high school kids should be able to do the same.
Mrs. Harrison?
I really believe that I'm a little leery. I worry so much about the health of the kids, and I know when you playing ball or whatever you're doing, you know, you want to scream, you want to run, and do all the things, and I'm not sure that's really healthy. I'm for the healthy part of it, just being careful. I guess I just really want to be cautious because I know what it's like to be in a coma and what it takes to survive. But if they can come up with a way that they can do it safely and responsible, then I say go with it.
Thank you. Okay. This will start with Ms. Zavigny. Teachers have expressed some frustration with what has been termed maybe disrespect shown by the board, citing the idea that board members wanted them teaching virtually from school buildings so administrators could keep an eye on them. Some have said that online in particular. Is that a fair criticism, and does the BOE need to mend fences?
I don't really think that that's a fair criticism. We've stated repeatedly at our board meetings how we think our teachers are doing an absolutely fantastic job, and they really have. I mean, they've been doing yeoman's work along with staff. And I think part of the problem is that folks just are very unhappy right now. It's a very bad situation to be in, and folks are really struggling with some of these conversations. But the conversations have to be had. They're not easy conversations, but that's what they are. I mean, we have to have that open dialogue and that transparency as we're discussing these issues at the Board of Ed level. And I hope that the teachers understand that we do trust them, we do respect them, we know that you've been doing an amazing job, and we can't thank you enough. And I hope that message is coming across loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
Thank you. So I would say from the last board meeting, knowing that there's almost 200 teachers who are looking to be on some sort of leave in the near future, I think that actually speaks volumes to the disrespect that they're feeling. And everybody's entitled to their feelings, whether something was said and it was intentional or unintentional. I think that emotions are running very high right now because we are in, this place of unknown. We're doing something that we've never done before. I think that we do need to have additional support for our teachers, whether that is student teachers helping them out, getting teachers' aides to help them out, because I'm hearing that it is a lot of work to set up Google Classrooms, to try and be one-on-one with students, to make sure students are caught up on their work. It is a lot. Whether a public apology is really needed, that would be for the actual board members to take up with the teachers.
Thank you. Mrs. Harrison?
I believe that we need to show the teachers a lot more respect and to really listen to what they're saying, because when you're on a board, it's a lot, the view is a lot different than when you're in the classroom. And you may think one thing as a board member, but until you've been in the classroom and been in that person's shoes, you don't know how they feel. Maybe that they should have a meeting with the board members to see how they feel, because I can understand why some of them feel the way that they do, like they're not appreciated.
Ms. Herbert?
I don't think that was a fair criticism, and I know I mentioned I thought it would be easier for them to teach in their classroom with their whiteboards, with their overheads, with their files there at their fingertips. And I have been visiting. I have been visiting my 11 schools, and I haven't felt that at all. I feel their frustration with the idea of coming up with the hybrid and virtual working together. It's not perfect, but we do need to get our students back in. And I have been listening to everyone. I even explained at last week's meeting on how difficult it would be for a kindergarten teacher to teach in front of a camera and then also teach the 10 children in their classroom. I feel for them. I understand. We have got to continue to work together. And I applaud all their hard work, because they are working really, really hard.
Thank you. Let's see. There will be likely repercussions for students from last spring and this fall. They could include learning loss, lower test scores, mental and emotional health issues, and maybe even parents taking kids out of public schools. So going forward, how will you address these types of issues? Ms. Brooks?
Thank you. So I have heard that there are record enrollments in our private schools in the county, which I think goes to show that we already have parents who are making those decisions and pulling their students out of Carroll County Public Schools. I do think that we are going to need to ramp up programs to help students who are behind. I think that we do have a section of students that were behind before COVID even hit. Now they're going to be more behind. So making sure, again, that we have enough resources in place to help those students going forward, to make sure that they're, mentally balanced, that they're understanding the curriculum. We would never want to see a child held back due to COVID-19, but at the same time, we may need additional learning opportunities over the summer to get everybody caught up.
Thank you. Mrs. Harrison?
I truly believe in Carroll County Public School that they're going to do everything in their power to reach those children, because they this is new for everybody, and it's trial and error, and I believe that we're going to get in there and fight as much as we can to treat these kids, to make sure they get what they need so they can succeed, because that's the most important thing. I mean, if they find a child that's really need more than they get, we're going to try. I believe they would truly try to reach those children and do everything in their power to make sure that they get the education that they deserve and need.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
Yes, several things. We have lost quite an impressive number of students, and we will have lost probably between $7 and $8 million in our forthcoming budget, which concerns us. But the most important thing is the welfare and the education of our children. I know when we get back fully, we will have to have remedial classes. We will need more mental health, more guidance counselors, helping these students along the way. I know in this last year, we hired 6 new special education teachers to help out. We added 1 psychologist this year. The next thing on the list is more counselors. We are in line to help these students. But when we reopen, we will have to make sure that every child has been touched and has been able to recoup what they've lost. This is going to be a big job for us. And we won't know about testing until we actually do the testing. And it's going to be a big job. But we will get it done.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
I think assessing the learning loss that we had over the last 6 to 8 months is going to be our biggest challenge. And as soon as we get the kids back in the classroom, in the buildings, we're going to be administering those local assessments, and those are going to be a key tool for us to understand exactly where our students are academically and social emotionally. And we're going to need to dive very deep into those numbers and truly understand and develop formal plans at the individual student level to try to help them with those recoveries, to recover that learning loss. We're going to have to put together specific intervention plans to help our students get back to where they need to be. We made a lot of progress on that in the last budget cycle. We were able to add special education resources. We were able to add school psychologists and address mental health issues and resources. And I think we're going to have to get back to that as quickly as possible, as soon as we do get the kids back in the classroom.
Thank you. Okay. A few Carroll County schools are maxed out and others are underutilized in terms of enrollment. So what is your solution for this? Would you support comprehensive redistricting and possibly even closing schools if that's presented as a viable option? Mrs. Harrison?
Well, the options are all there, but the problem is we can't do it right now. So we're going to have to, like the school system always do, they get a program together. They assess what needs to be assessed to reach those children and make sure they get all the things that they need. And it's really great. Carroll County is unique in one way, and that's that partnership that they have with the other businesses and things that they have in the school system. But I'm sure they will handle it.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
Well, I want to make it certainly clear, I will not close school. I have lived through that. I taught at North Carroll High School, and I am a product of why I'm on the board, because I got the squeeze play, and it was time for me to retire, and I understand that. But there was so many other things that need to play a part when you're talking about closing schools that they missed. The other thing that I found out in the cycle of living in Carroll County all my life, redistricting has been tried several times, and there has not been one iota working forward that came out of that yet. And the board always voted no in the very end. We need to look at the southern end of the county, and in fact, we were looking at the Freedom area, and we are going to have to go back and look at that area because that is highly populated, and we do need to look at that. So,
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
Comprehensive redistricting at this point, I think, is off the table. And since we've already gone through the whole school closure process, that would just mean moving kids to move kids. I think if we do targeted redistricting, and that could really help solve a lot of issues with some of the schools that are overutilized versus some that are underutilized. And in fact, we have that very thing underway with the Freedom Redistricting Committee to try to address the situation there. And I think the targeted redistricting is the way to go in the future. Really what we need to do is address access as well for our students. And I think that this new online world that we're living in can really help with that. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to move students just to move students, especially if we can address access through online programming. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
Thank you. So I see no reason to close schools at this time. I don't think that there is a need for it. I don't see a need for it in the near future, personally. I do think that virtual learning can help with some of the overcrowding. If we see that there is, a population that wants their child to be a 100% virtual learner, I think that that would be great. That could also help with ease some of the congestion in the schools. As Ms. Savigny said, targeted redistricting. So not redistricting the entire county, but looking at those places that are over capacity and saying, how could we make this better? I think that would be a better solution.
Thank you. Staff diversity has been a CCPS issue for some time now. So why do you think Carroll hasn't been able to hire more teachers of color? And what do you think is a realistic goal going forward? And above that, how do you think the school system should be held accountable?
We have worked very hard to increase our diversity. Judy Jones and her committee work endlessly, and Chantress Baptist has worked really hard also. She has even gone to the point, and it was stopped the day right near COVID started, she was going to have a invite right to the Board of right in the Board of Education for anyone, for new employees. So they go to different areas where they can recruit. She has a diverse committee, and they are really working hard. And I want to say that Carroll County is one of the best places to live, and we definitely need to increase our diversity, but they just have to give us a chance to get in there. I know that Judy Jones has after-school activities and gatherings for our new diverse teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
I think one of the reasons why we haven't been as successful as we'd like to be is that people like to live where they work and work where they live. And we don't have a large minority population in Carroll County, and I think that's one of the issues. We need to be able to attract and retain people to our community. And I think that Chantress and Judy Jones have done an absolutely outstanding job in those HR initiatives that we have planned and working, and all of the support groups that we have for minority staff. I think they're making tremendous strides. We have an equity policy that we put in place, which is a very robust equity policy, and we also have a very strong equity component to our strategic plan. So we have those metrics that we've put in place to say we need to do better, and we need to improve over time, continuously. We haven't gotten there yet, but we have plans in place in order to get there, and I think that we will get there. It won't happen overnight, but we are making progress.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
Thank you. So it is very important to have a diverse staff. Students need teachers that they can identify with. So think of the students that are in the schools who are looking around and think, I can't connect with anybody here because none of these people are like me. Again, we have a very low minority population in Carroll County. I think that that's hard, so you have to start looking outside of the county and how do we bring folks into that. And I think part of that could be the benefits that we provide. I think that teachers are easily swayed to going to a Howard County or a Montgomery County for the benefits. So maybe that's something that we need to look at, but it has to be looked at within the budget. It's not something that we can just promise, hey, we're gonna give you better benefits so that we can bring up our diversity numbers, but it's something that we should definitely look at and get the feedback on.
Thank you. Mrs. Harrison?
Well, one of the things I have to give Carroll County Public School a lot of credit for, because they've gotten outside of the box where they had the NAACP travel to go with them when they recruit teachers. And they've had receptions after work on Fridays so they can meet each other. They've done a number of things to make this happen, but for some reason, and sometime once they get there and they get in a classroom or in a school where by themselves, things start to look a little differently. And we may hire 4, but we'll lose 4. So it's like we're standing still, but we're not, because I personally had a reception at my home for the African-American employees could just get together and talk among themselves. And we keep trying. We're going to keep trying until we get it done.
Thank you. So, as was mentioned, the Tech Center project, renovation project is underway, and plans are set for a new East Middle School. In your opinion, what buildings are next in line for a major makeover?
Funny you should ask. We actually have a capital improvement plan hearing tomorrow night at the Board of Ed, where we will be discussing those projects that are next on the horizon. So our capital budget is in pretty good shape. We've been working very closely with the commissioners to try to understand what capital projects can we fund and how can we get those done. And Career and Tech is a huge project that we're very excited to have broken ground and make progress on that. And East Middle is also another project that is certainly next in line, and we've progressed to the planning and design phases. After that, we still need to continue replacing systems, roof replacements, HVAC replacements, and things like that. Shortly after that, I think we need to start looking at Liberty and Westminster High School as being some of the next projects on the horizon. I believe William Winchester is also very close on the horizon. So we have our list of projects that we have lined out, and it's going to correspond with the capital dollars that we've built in with the commissioners over a 5-year period.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
So I think it has been wonderful to see the plans for the Tech Center and for East Middle School. I think the big goal right now is to make sure that we don't let any other schools get to the point of East Middle School. That building has been there. I joke all the time, my daughter's great-grandmother graduated high school at East Middle School when it was Westminster High School. It's been there for a very long time and has been quite neglected. So I would like to see us continue to do those small improvements, roof replacements, HVAC replacements, take care of the buildings that we have so that we don't have to build a building and tear down a building. I think that needs to be the priority, and I think that we have to look at every school every year to see what improvements need to be made.
Thank you. Mrs. Harrison?
Well, actually, when I was on the board, Carroll County was really good at doing the repairs. And I have to also give Carroll County a big shout out for how clean their buildings are. They really put interest into keeping it clean and keeping it up. And right now, I am so excited about the Career and Tech Center because we have been working on that for years. We had a plan to go, and then we had to scratch it. So now that this plan, and they're working to get things done at East Middle, is just absolutely wonderful. But we have to keep our foot on the pedal to try to save the other schools, but we're behind in giving our teachers raises, and we're playing catch-up. And so I really feel they're doing the best job they possibly can do right now with what they have.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
This is true. We do have a CIP meeting tomorrow night in the boardroom. I'm very excited about the Career and Tech Center. That was way overdue. And yes, my mother and I both graduated from East Middle School. And I glad I went there, but yes, it is time. We do have a plan, and we will be looking at 3 schools. We'll be looking at William Winchester, Liberty High School, and Westminster High School. I also want to tell everyone that we do have a plan for and a list of what schools are next for HVAC. And if anybody looks at our plan, it goes across the board on who's next, who's up, and what we're going to plan for the next 4 or 5 years. Actually, it's even more than that. But we do have an actual excellent plan and rotation of schools that need to be repaired. We do have a lot of older schools, and we need to keep up. And I cannot say enough thank yous for our people that work in there and keep those floors just shine. It's amazing.
Thank you. This is a long one. This is a nonpartisan election, and the Code of Ethics in the BOE Handbook, posted online, instructs that board members will avoid being placed in a position of conflict of interest and refrain from using board position for personal or partisan gain. So what does holding a nonpartisan position mean to you? And if you are active in local politics or have accepted campaign support from a political party, how do you assure students and families of all views that you will fairly represent and support everyone? And that's Ms. Brooks, I believe.
So I am not endorsed by any political party. I will say I am a registered Republican. I do identify more as an independent, mainly because I don't like people telling me what to think. So for me, there's no conflict of interest. It is nonpartisan. I went into this nonpartisan. Again, I can see Republican points of view. I can see Democratic points of view. I like to think that I'm a broad thinker. So I like to be able to assess all situations from beginning to end. That's part of my job and what I do in real life. So I think that, that speaks for itself. I'm not being endorsed by anybody. I don't plan to be endorsed by anybody. I have had people reach out and I have turned them down.
Thank you. Mrs. Harrison?
I think the nonpartisan is the reason that I ran. I don't think it should matter what party I am. It's just like the kids in the school. I don't care who these kids are. They're kids, and all you care about is the kids. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. You want to teach and care for each kid. And that's the way I feel like. And it kind of bothered me this year that I understood some people endorsed other people, and I figured because we're nonpartisan, that's not necessary. It's always been, you won straight out, we were always good friends, we always got along, we don't shout out about each other and say bad things, we don't do that.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
Yes, I'm endorsed by two groups. I'm endorsed by the CCEA, and we were also endorsed by the Carroll Republican Committee. I am my own person. My past has proven that. I do not vote either way, whether it's Republican or Democrat. I vote for what is right for our students of Carroll County. I vote for what's best interest for these families in Carroll County and also our educators. So I just want everyone to know that I am my own person, and this has been a very difficult election to run in a COVID situation. We could not have any fundraisers. I was able to get one in, but I know what it really costs to run an election, and sometimes you need to get your name out. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
I'd like to say that a nonpartisan race really means that you just don't have an R or a D or anything behind your name on the ballot. And I think that that's appropriate for a Board of Education race because it is really just about what we think is best for the kids. That's always what we're going to be voting on. But at the same time, voters need to know who we are and what we stand for. And that's where we do have some endorsements. I have similar endorsements as Ms. Herbert. I have the CCEA endorsements and the Republican Central Committee. If the Democratic Central Committee had put out for an endorsement, I would have gone for that one as well, just so that people had more of an opportunity to know who I am and what my position statements are, because I think that's really what voters need to know. But in the end, again, I believe that voters have the right to know. They need to know what we stand for. And in the end, it's all about just voting what's best for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have time for one more question, or should we wrap things up? One more? We'll go have one last question then. Okay. So for you all, what is your biggest priority? What will be your main signature issue for Carroll County Public Schools over the next 4 years if elected? And we start with Mrs. Harrison.
I think one of our priorities that that we're probably already working on is how to get our kids back up on where they should be from what the COVID have done for them. And I also think it's a priority that we learn from the pandemic to further that with the technology and all the things that came out of it that was good, because there were some good things about being shut in. So many more of the kids know how to work technology. And I think to get our teachers at a scale that's competitive with the other teachers is really crucial because we have good teachers and we lose them to Howard County because they make more money. And I think that's really important, and they take our best teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Herbert?
I'm going through my mind here. I think the things we really need to keep focused on and our priorities is, first one, we need to follow our strategic plan. We made a new equity policy. We need to follow that. And then we also need to continue to work on our technology. We have to continue working with our educators and make sure that they have fair wages. And I think one of the biggest things down the road that I'm really worried about is doing this catch-up from COVID. We are gonna really have to see what testing results are, and I think in the next year or two, we're really gonna have to play catch-up with that. And I also want to make sure, I campaigned for making sure we had more special education teachers, and now I'm going to campaign that we're going to need more mental health guidance counselors in elementary, and in fact, all three grades, all three levels. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
If I had to put one word on it, I think it would be access. We had issues with access for our students before COVID. You know, our farms kids not having access to technology, not having enough resources for special ed programs, not having career and tech programs, you know, to the level that they were needed. All sorts of access issues around the county, and COVID exacerbated that, if anything. And I think that we need to get to assessing our students as soon as we can to see how much learning was lost and developing those recovery plans, all with access in mind. It's going to be a delicate balancing act with the rest of the budget. We certainly want to continue to provide competitive salaries for our employees. We've done a great job with that over the last 4 years. We've given solid raises for each one of the last 4 years. But that's going to be a very delicate balancing act with all of the access issues that we want to address in the near future.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
The first thing that we're going to have to look at is the budget, based solely on student enrollment, with students leaving for private schools and homeschooling, really seeing what we're going to be able to get in a budget. From there, I'd really like to see better support for our students and our teachers. So more guidance counselors, especially in elementary schools where you have one guidance counselor for every 650 plus students, and more instructional aides, especially in kindergarten through second grade, where you're constantly assessing where the child is and what help they need. From there, it would be technology, mental health education, diversity inclusion for our students. So it's a lot that we need to look at, but those would be the things that I would definitely be committed to for the next 4 years.
Thank you. We will now take closing statements. Each candidate may present a 1.5-minute closing statement. After all candidate statements are complete, we'll turn it back over to the Media Center. So could we start with Ms. Herbert?
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank again the Carroll Media Center and the Carroll County Times for hosting this forum tonight. I am here to serve the students, families, and educators of Carroll County. I have shown this through my leadership and guidance. A new strategic plan, a new equity policy, continuously increased salaries for our educators who are working so hard, a 5-year balanced budget, and a new SRO program. CCPS is leading the way, first in the state in math scores and second in ELA, while always making sure that our students are career and college ready. I am still concerned about the inequities, and especially during COVID, the disadvantage to special education and special needs students. I'm concerned about the social, emotional, and mental well-being of all our students, including our athletes. We need to figure out the ramifications of the effectiveness of our students learning from an all-virtual platform. The board has worked hard to create an open and transparent dialogue with our delegation, the commissioners, and Sheriff's Police Department. Our future is uncertain, but I will make the best decisions I can with my experience. I ask for your vote, Marcia Herbert, for Carroll County Board of Education, but I also asked you to vote for my friend and colleague, Donna Savigny. We have worked so well together, strategically planning for the future. So please, vote for me, Marcia Herbert, and Donna Savigny for Carroll County Board of Education. We are number 3 and number 4 on the ballot, and thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny?
Thank you. I'd also like to thank the CMC and the Carroll County Times for hosting this forum and bringing all the candidates together so that voters can make an educated choice on the best candidate for them to support. But I also think that voters need to look at past performance, and this is where I believe Marcia and I truly separate ourselves. While we've been in office, some major successes that we've had include developing a robust strategic plan with metrics and accountability. We adopted a strong equity policy focusing on access for our students. We fixed structural budget issues and provided solid raises to our educators for each of the last 4 years. We developed a much better working relationship with the commissioners. We got capital projects moving that had stalled for many years, especially the Career and Tech Center and East Middle New School. And we started building a technology platform that's going to take us through and beyond the pandemic. So on November 3rd, I also humbly ask you to vote for me, Donna Savigny, and my fellow board member, Marcia Herbert. We will continue to work together to be an effective team for our students' success. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brooks?
So again, I'd like to thank the CMC and the Carroll County Times for putting together this forum. I would like to say a thank you to these 3 wonderful women who have all served on the Board of Education. This is not an easy job, and I do feel like at times through their careers, maybe they have not gotten the respect that they deserve in the positions that they're in. Myself, running for this position, I'm here to help our stakeholders. I want to help our educators, our parents, and especially our students to do what's best for them. And if that means bringing virtual learning to the forefront as part of an education plan, then let's do that. If it's getting more counselors into our schools, then let's look at that. There are 5 members on the Board of Education, so there's no one person on the Board of Education who's going to make a decision. These decisions are made jointly. So with that said, it would be an honor to have you vote for me. I do know I'm the newcomer, but I'm not going to go away, so this won't be the last time you see me.
Thank you. And Mrs. Harrison?
I want to thank the Media Center for having this. I really enjoyed it. The room is a little cold, but I appreciate that. I've served 8.5 years on the Board of Education, and it was an honor and a privilege for me to be a part of the Carroll County Public School team, because it's truly a team. I teach a class on Common Ground, and it's a sewing class. And I have teachers, most of them are teachers. And I remember one day I went to help a student. I said, "Can I help you with that?" And she said, no. And she said, "I'm an ESOL teacher. And for the first time in my life, I know how my students feel." And she said, "And I have to change the way I teach because what I've learned in this class." And that's what Carroll County School is about. We have partners like the Boys and Girls Club, the community college. We work together as a team. And if you're going to be on this board, you have to be a team. And I would love for you to let me be a part of that team again. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you all for your participation. This concludes our forum for this evening, and I'll now turn it back over to Teresa Bethune.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to all the candidates who joined us this evening and to our moderator, Mr. Bob Blueball, editor of the Carroll County Times. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions for the candidates tonight. Coverage of the Board of Education Candidates Forum will be rebroadcast on cable channel HD 1086 and channel 19 starting September 30th and will be available for on-demand viewing. Just a reminder, you can get more election information on the Community Media Center's website at carrollmediacenter.org. We've created a voter's guide with important dates, polling locations, helpful links, and answers to many of your questions. So again, visit carrollmediacenter.org. Before we leave, I would like to encourage everyone to take the time to learn about all the candidates running for office in the 2020 election. And remember, voting is more than just a right, it's a responsibility. Thank you and good night.